I actually schooled him last week, and once you light him up over a fence, he is very quick from one side to the other.
They tell me he can boil over.
I think Brighter Days Ahead will win the Champion Hurdle.
I managed to get in some crossover. The problem is, if anyone's watching on YouTube rather than Spotify, there are only 2 left, and there were quite a few. And I think next to get is going to be the cinnamon bun. Do you like cinnamon? I love cinnamon.
Not a massive
I
fan.
love cinnamon. Oh, it's stuck to the paper. It's been out there so long. This is the cafe outside it, but it actually is hard to. Someone's going to have to hoover the floor now as well. But anyway, if you're listening on Spotify, you're probably wondering what's happened. If you're watching on YouTube, cinnamon bum. Right.
Go on.
This, Patrick, is it. Cheltenham Festival 2025. Right, let's get on. That's a good intro. We'll use that. Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode. What are we up to? 16 of Unbridled. Thanks for helping me out there, Pad. Thank you as ever to our kind sponsors at BoyleSports. This is it. We've waited for months and months and months and months for this, and now it is here. And what's more, this Cheltenham Festival is unique, because never in the history of the Cheltenham Festival before have there been 4 episodes of Unbridled every single day. And without doubt, Paddy, for most people, that is what makes Cheltenham 2025 the most special ever.
What?
The fact that we have 4 episodes of Unbridled, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Right. So,
when they said you weren't the cleverest in the weighing room, they kind of had a point, I think, didn't they? They kind of had a point.
we've got a busy week ahead with Unbridled, and hopefully you people out there will keep listening to us and him.
You know, every week that after the show I say to you, what I need is you to be more Roy Keane-ish, more yourself. You're almost too happy just to be here. On the biggest day of them all, you've really gone down the route that I wanted. You don't sound excited at all. Is this just the depression that sets in because you're not riding there?
No, I wasn't riding there for a few years anyway, Matt. I used to...
Yeah, you've been crap quite some time.
The last few years, you'd be walk of shame. You'd be going in there for 25 to 1 shots. No fun in that.
Okay. Do you remember the feeling you had when Imperial Commander crossed the line in the Gold Cup? Do you remember?
I remember everything about that day.
Okay. So for us punters and lovers at Cheltenham, the feeling you had in your kahunas as you passed that post is exactly the feeling that I get in my kahunas in every race at Cheltenham this week. That's how I get.
That's how it should be. It's the best week of the year, and yeah, of course we're looking forward to it. Maybe not quite as excited as you, but
well, that's because, of course, Lossiemouth, who was going to win the champion hurdle, won't even be in the race. So you've had an absolute mare there. But also, Jack Bauer, longest day of my life, 24. A series you probably didn't watch, did you? Because it's quite an intelligent series. That was his catchphrase. Champion hurdle day, when Constitution Hill absolutely bolts up, is going to be the longest day of your life, isn't it? How are you there Tuesday?
I am. Yeah, I'm there.
How
Tuesday.
will you walk around? Will you put a scarf on or something, or cover your face, or what will you do?
No, I'll dress smart, walk away, walk around, and
Slightly embarrassed?
nothing to be embarrassed about.
No.
Brighter days ahead will motor up that hill.
And you know why you shouldn't be embarrassed, Paddy? Is because having an opinion is all that matters. It doesn't matter whether you're right or wrong. Everyone's going to be right or wrong on occasions. That's the nature of the horse racing beast. But having an opinion and sticking your neck above the parapet and then taking the abuse, which you will get, trust me, you will get it. Your social media feeds will never have been so busy in all your life. But you did it. You had an opinion for all that it was absolutely wrong. The point of this show is to go through each of the 7 races on the Tuesday. Now, just to let you know how we're doing this week, because it's absolutely crucial. We're recording Monday for Tuesday, Tuesday for Wednesday, Wednesday for Thursday, Thursday for Friday. So we are a day behind. So we're recording Tuesday's show on Monday morning. That is how we're going to work this out. Are you excited though underneath it all, Pat?
Oh yeah, I can't wait, man. I love good racing. I love the best horses, and over the next 4 days we're going to see that. I was in Cheltenham yesterday. It's unusual weather, really. It was nearly 19, 20 degrees, not what you'd be used to this time of year at Cheltenham, but look, the town's buzzing, the place is buzzing, and come 10:30 tomorrow morning, people will be queuing up to get in there, and the place will be absolutely buzzing.
Usually I'd start in order, but because of the way this show has gone, there's only one place we can start our first Cheltenham Festival Unbridled episode, and that is with the 4 o'clock on Tuesday afternoon. It is the Unibet sponsored Champion Hurdle. Constitution Hill, the former champion, against possibly the up-and-coming pretender Brighter Days Ahead. On official ratings, when you take into account the £7 mare's allowance, and I never know whether you should, because remember, the £7 allowance is really there because mares are not as strong as geldings, rather than the fact they're not as good. But if you took that into account, there's £5 between them on official ratings. You could bring Brighter Days Ahead up to 170, and Constitution Hill's a 175 horse. Constitution Hill, therefore, technically would have to run £5 below form not to win it. Who wins the Champion Hurdle, Patrick?
I think Brighter Days Ahead will win the Champion Hurdle.
Oh, God. Why?
And
Make a case. I'm eating my cinnamon bun one.
we can hear it. And you say the £7 is there for a reason, but when Any Power was winning all around her, Matt, they were questioning £7. So you have a variation of...
They were still questioning it.
Still questioning it, but it is a lot of weight. It's a half a stone, and that could be the difference tomorrow, even though I think she's good enough even on close to levels. I really do. I think we're going to see something special from her tomorrow. Don't get me wrong, I'm not here to knock Constitution Hill, and if he wins, I'll be the first man to say well done. He's an unbelievable horse, and racing needs him in the game, but I think we're going to see Brighter Days Ahead at our very best tomorrow.
You are knocking Constitution Hill, though, and you have done right from the start. And people have begun to pick up on that. Michael Buckley, Nicky Henderson, The World. What is it about Constitution Hill that you don't like? What is it? What's Henderson done wrong? Is it just that you are so jealous of Nico de Monville that you can't bring yourself to like this horse?
No, I'm not. I'm not Nico de Chastel. I'm not. He's even bought a taxi. I see a black taxi with his name on the side of it. I have no problem with that. But Matt, when we used to watch...
You'd love a black taxi, though, with Paddy Brennan on the side, wouldn't you? You'd love that.
Maybe Paddy Brennan Racing Syndicate. Matt, when we... when you watch Constitution Hill, when he beat John Bon, and when he beat John Bon, and when he beat State Man, I just don't see that anymore from him. I think he's good. He's still winning. He's doing what he has to do. But tomorrow, it could be... Brighter Days Ahead gets him just a little bit niggling turning in tomorrow. Race is over.
I mean, I just don't get what you're saying. I sort of can understand it, I guess, but I just don't get it. If you're knocking him at Kempton, the horse has been off the track for a year. Hell, at points during that year, we thought he might even be dead. We never really knew exactly what was wrong, but we know he had a wind operation. We know he had colic. We know he had issues. And he came back and for 9/10 of the race, travelled like the machine that he has always been. Yes, he got pushed out on the run-in, but he'd had a year off the track. I mean, what other horse in the history of the sport has come back from a year off the track and produced exactly the same performance as they produced the previous year? I don't believe there is one. I just don't think there is. Horses don't do that. So the fact that he was as big as a bull and he needed to run a bit and he had to be pushed out and the stick came out doesn't worry me at all. And then at Cheltenham last time, yes, it was inferior opposition, but he had 135, 140 horses completely beaten by halfway. Like, completely beaten.
But he wasn't big as a bull, though, when he won at Kempton.
He was.
No, he wasn't. He had plenty of race.
He was as big as me after this cinnamon donut.
He had race course gallops, and he'd been here, there, and everywhere. Look, Matt, you're always a champion's a champion, and if he goes and win the champion hurl, he'll still be the champion. But I think he could be beat tomorrow, and I'll stand by that.
I mean, the dinner that you promised Michael Buckley, Nicky Henderson, myself, has not materialised.
No one ever said we were taking you.
I mean, we need a forfeit, don't we?
We don't need anything.
Well, we do, don't we? We need a forfeit.
Anyway,
we feel that confident. I think one of us should have to do the show in a bra or something.
People are bored of talking
corset.
about dinner. I'll leave that to me, all right, Nick? Come on.
Okay. Okay, brighter days ahead.
For me.
You're judging her only on one performance because she's only got one performance that gives her any chance at all, which was last time when she beat a complete outsider when, effectively State Man didn't turn up for the gig. I mean, you're judging her, you remember, on one performance.
I just judge her on the fact she could be improving. And if she goes on that performance, Matt, what chance do you give her?
I don't know, to be honest. I don't know how to judge it at all. The time people say it was all right, but I think times can be very misleading. The ground wasn't that bad for Ireland. And
that's another factor in this champion hurl is the ground. You tell me the last time we went into a Cheltenham with this kind of ground. Now, you're only talking a few years, but it's maybe 3 or 4 years ago when we started on ground this decent. You got to take all that into consideration. How will your Constitution Hill like that?
Do you remember a band called Johnny Hates Jazz?
No.
They had they got one good album, but on that album was a song called Turn Back the Clock, which was a good song. Turn back the clock. Da, 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 da. It's a good song. Anyway, so I'm going to turn back the clock to 2019, and I have dug out because, contrary to popular belief, this throw is not just thrown together.
So how many years ago is that?
It's 6 years.
Yeah.
You don't even know what I'm going to say.
Well, hurry. I have a fair idea where this is heading.
This is how you disliked in the weighing room because you just got in there before people had even started saying anything. You just gave your colleagues that look, and they thought, oh God, Paddy's off on one. So turn back the clock. So we're going to turn back the clock to 2018. Apple's Jade, who was a 10 or 9 times Grade 1 winner going into the champion hurdle, having won the Irish champion, and was sent off the 7-4 favourite. And this is what Gordon Elliott said about Apple's Jade before she ran in that champion hurdle. She's a monster. She's something else, and we're lucky to have her. And what did she do? She was absolutely useless. She was no monster at all. My point is, we've got all of Gordon Elliott's lot saying, brighter days ahead is this or that. Oh, she'll never be beaten. She's the best horse we've ever had. Well, you just turn back the clock to 2019. They said exactly the same about the mare Apple's Jade. Because I will tell you this, Patrick Brennan, right now. Brighter days ahead has never eyeballed anything like Constitution Hill. Constitution Hill is a freak. He will jump quicker, he will travel better, and he will destroy her.
You're recording this. Good.
Right, we'll move on. Actually, just before we move on, I was just going to try, because you know what? I thought that perhaps it would be wrong to call Nicky Henderson 24 Hours Before, even though he's been such a big part of this show. I did think about Nikolai, but you get so upset. I thought you'd just get in a mood for the rest of the show. I thought Buckers, but I felt last week that Buckers had enough of us.
No, we don't want to ring
And
Buckers.
then I thought, what about the man who's going to watch it on the telly with us? And that's James Bowen, who rides work at Seven Barrows every day. I'm hoping he might pick up. You never know with Bowen, though, because he's a bit mad. He could have been at a rave last night. Oh, hold on. He's there. Hello, James.
All right, how you getting on?
I'm good. Me, Paddy, looking forward to watching the Cheltenham Festival on telly this week, which, so are you.
Yeah, can't wait, yeah. Love watching.
No, I mean, look, you're showing a sense of humour, but I appreciate that this is just about as cruel as any bang could ever be in the game for something that really was nothing to end up with this. I mean, you'll always be allowed with a smile on your face, but basically you must be totally off.
Yeah, it is annoying, obviously. Like, but I suppose we know the rules, and I broke them.
Oh.
I know that for me, I don't think the sort of penalty fits the crime really, but then that's just my opinion, and the rules are rules. So I got to deal with it. But yeah, it's not great missing the best week of the year, but yeah, that's what I got to deal with now. So
Paddy did say to me earlier that you could have had an hour in a studio recording a show with me, and he said that, you know, there are worse things than missing the Cheltenham Festival. So, you know, at least you haven't had to do that. But look, the reason we've just discussed the Champion Hurdle. I think Constitution Hill is a certainty, which I'm presuming you will as well. Paddy thinks that Brighter Days Ahead is just in a different league to Constitution Hill. She's going to absolutely smash up Constitution Hill. Constitution Hill can't win because he's not good enough. He can't win because Nikolai Chastel de Boinville's got a stupid name. All sorts of reasons he's come up with. You may have seen Constitution Hill this morning. You see him most mornings. What's your feeling about him right now?
I can't see him getting beat, to be honest. He's definitely the best horse I've ever set eyes on. I mean, yeah, obviously it's going to be a tough task beating Brighter Days Ahead, but nothing's come near him in his whole life. So I think it'd be hard for me to look at her and say she'd beat him. But I just think the pace of the race with that. I think it's King of Thieves, is it? That'll probably go off, and I think that'll just suit him even more, really. I just think he's a special horse, and he probably wasn't at his best, I thought, in Kempton. He probably really needed that run, and he still won, and he's only going to get better this season, I think.
And James, I do agree. He's an unbelievable horse, and let me speak.
And you can't backtrack every time.
Let me speak.
When Buckley comes on, you suddenly like Constitution Hill. Now Bowen's on, you like him.
Let me speak. And
you are the most fickle man ever.
Ram that thing down your throat, James. You know you say nothing got near him. Nothing got near him this year. Yeah, I agree with that.
It's not what you're thinking, James.
But Sergino galloped all over him at Newbury. What was the story there?
Yeah, I visually you could see I went better than him. But I genuinely just think Constitution Hill was really unfit that day. He's a burly horse, and he doesn't do anything until you ask him. And I think Sergino is he wasn't Sergino's probably the second best horse I've ever seen. So he wasn't just galloping with anything that day. And I think he's improved so much from that.
Enough said. James, outside of Constitution Hill, and maybe John Bon as well, which is the one Hendo horse that you're excited to see this week?
Probably Django Bay. I actually schooled him last week, and he's been running over. I know it's going to be tough to beat Majborough. I know people go on say about his jumping wasn't great, but I watched it back the other day, and I thought Majborough's jumping was fine to sort of go and win this race. But dropping back to 2 mile, I think Django Bay you could see a better horse again. He definitely stays 2.5, but once you light him up over a fence, he is very quick from one side to the other. And if something does go wrong with Majborough, I think he'll be definitely picking up the pieces.
Amazing.
I won him in Ancient last year, but I really like that horse.
I mean, you love your house music. Are you off to Ibiza this week, or what do you do?
No, I'm not off to Ibiza. I think it's opening weekend there, Matt.
Yeah.
Probably should have gone.
No, I'm heading there. I've already booked in August the 5th, Camel Fat at Pasha. I'm already booked in for that. But anyway, that's another story. Oh, God, I might not go. I might have to change the date now. All the Unbridled crew will be outside with their scarves. Hey! But so do you go every day? Kind of do you have to work for the yard or something?
No, I might go tomorrow. But other than that, I'll be watching on the TV. You'll probably see more on TV, I'd say. But I'll be watching on all right. I love watching racing as much as riding in it. So yeah, I'll enjoy it anyway.
Well, I'm absolutely gutted. I genuinely am that you're not there. You deserve to be on that stage. But I'm afraid it's happened now. Luckily, Sean's riding out of his skin, isn't he? So at least one Bowen's doing the stuff.
Yeah, hopefully he can bag a winner anyway. We both haven't had a winner there yet, but I suppose he's got full 4 days without me there, so he's got more of a chance now this year than to get first before me.
Yeah. Look, the Bowens are a great family from mum and dad downwards. So, look, I don't think, Pad, there are many jockeys who have had a band like this who come on a show and chat happily like this.
No.
Certainly if you think of Dunwoody back in the day or AP, can you imagine them coming on a podcast and chatting about Cheltenham? Have you missed it? So, or you.
Yeah,
well, you wouldn't, would you? You'd have just, oh, I'm not coming on that. I've got to be with the kids all week.
James knows he's got many years ahead, and he'll ride many Cheltenham winners. So that's why he can. When you get old like me and grumpy, you got to be more moody.
Yeah. So what he's saying is, James, you've got brighter days ahead, but just not tomorrow. Have a safe journey. Thanks for picking up.
Cheers, man.
Top man. Cheers. But he's a really nice lad.
Lovely lad.
He's a bit crazy, I think. He does really like his
I'd
house music and
say
stuff like that.
he's as strong as I've ever seen in a finish.
Yeah. He's really talented. He's one of those jockeys just under the surface, waiting for that opportunity. Remember when Nico got I think it was a ban or whatever he got something, and James stood in, and he did really well. He had that really frustrating time on John Bomb, which he was so unlucky because the horse nearly got back up in the Clarence House.
Yeah.
And that will have affected him, I suspect, for a little while. But talented jockey. But anyway, he's not going to help us find any winners as far as tomorrow's racing is concerned. So we might as well move on. Right, let's start with the first race on the card, which, of course, means so much to everyone. This podcast massively included. We had a whole show devoted to Michael O'Sullivan, and now we have the Michael O'Sullivan Supreme Novices Hurdle. If you have been on Planet Mars, Michael, of course, passed so sadly just the other week after a horrific fall, I think Turler's, wasn't it? And he's being remembered here. There's going to be a minute's applause, which I'm hoping will literally lift the roof off the top of the grandstand. The jockeys are going to come out into the parade ring, I think, around 45 minutes before the first race as well. And I'm hoping the roar, which is just interesting because how they do the applause, but I'm hoping the roar before the off of the Michael O'Sullivan Supreme Novices Hurdle will be the greatest roar that has ever been heard at the Cheltenham Festival. Kopek Des Bordes is the hot favourite. Romeo Coolio work ahead. Let's start with Kopek Des Bordes. Well, just a general overview of what you feel could happen here, Pat.
Yeah, Matt, you got to think like minute's applause here for Michael. What part that takes place? Will the horses be in the ring? I've done a few of these Cheltenham previews and I always listen to everyone's opinion, not always yours. But the Kopek, you can see a hood on for the first time. He's got to get all them bits right before the race, Matt. He's by far the best horse in the race. But if he goes down to the start like Paddy Brennan on a bad day, he could be beat. That is the only thing I can think of that would get him beat, Matt, is the preliminaries before the race. Head going, you walk down that chute in Cheltenham, you got to walk you can walk up each sides of the steps, and there's a bridge, you got to walk down in under there. Matt, horses can be beat before they even get under that bridge. So things like that are the only thing from what I can see could get him beat is him losing the race before the start. But if all that goes okay, I can't see Atten beating him.
I think one thing in the favour of the short price favourites in the first two races, Majborough and Kopek Des Bordes, is their small fields. What I always feel in these races is if you do get 15, 20 runners, which obviously you probably never do in an Arkle, but in the Supreme you could have 15 runners. It does make things a lot trickier. But this is a relatively small field at the moment. We're expecting 12 to go to post.
And 6 of Willie's, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The betting at the Cheltenham Festival is an interesting thing, Pad, because For those of us who do talks there and stuff like that, you have to remember that a lot of people are not betting every week. They're betting at the day they're at the Cheltenham Festival. They might not have another bet until the Cheltenham Festival next year. So when you get experts talking intents, and I mean this as far as this show is concerned, most of the listeners of this show will know all about betting, etc., and know what they're doing. But when you come on shows like this and say what I'm about to say, you have to remember your audience. Like, I don't want to back Kopek Des Bordes at even money.
I get that.
Now, I'm watching racing every minute of my life, so it's easy for me to say that. If you're just having a bet at the Cheltenham Festival, though, and this is your one day, then I'm not going to put you off backing Kopek Des Bordes, because he might well go and win, and you'll get that feeling that you had with Imperial Commander when he goes and wins. So what I'm saying is that you cannot talk to people all the time as if they're professional punters and they're betting all the time and every single point matters, and it matters whether it's 6-1 or 3-1, etc., because you have to know your audience of who you're talking to. On this show, I'm quite happy if someone wants to go in. It's not for me, and you're right, actually, which this is quite interesting, because the official ratings are not that easy to find for normal people until you get the declarations for the Irish horses. But he's rated 157. Romeo Coolio is rated 148. So he is clear on ratings on what they've done so far. The only thing I would say with novices is that I think ratings are almost irrelevant until the end of the season, because you can improve them so quickly. For me, Romeo Coolio, who was just such the most obvious horse to put up as a horse to follow at the start of the season, and loads of people did, he was second in the Champion Bumper. Not all those bumper horses go on, but he has. He's turned into a good hurdler. He's won a Grade 1 last time out. He's only been beaten once over hurdles so far. He'll run up the hill. He's been trained to the minute for this race, save for this race. So for me, I mean, I'm looking at it now. I can back Romeo Coolio at 7-8-1. Like, for me, I'd much rather back him each way against Kopek Des Bordes. But that's just because I can't be really that bothered with Kopek at even money. Like, he's just too short for me. He could even be odds on.
But Matt, that's.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Why we're said it, absolutely. And you got to find value, and I couldn't agree more. Which, if you're going to go and back an even money shot every day of the week, you'll go skint. So you got to find value in Romeo Coolio. I agree, definitely at 6-7-1 each way chance, 100%. What price do you think he will go off, Matt Kopek? Do you think he'll be odds on, or do you think could he go stronger than even money? Weaker than even money?
I think he'll be strong, because I just think everyone just thinks,
Banker.
It's Willie Mullins' first race. You get that in, and then the rest is a party almost. For punting, you won't be used to this, Paddy. Well, you might be, actually, because you're a jockey, but most jockeys aren't used to punting. You don't know what it psychologically feels like. But getting that first winner in, it probably is like a jockey. Like, you get the first winner in, the rest of it almost doesn't matter if you lose the next 26, 27, 14, 21, 28, 27 races. It doesn't matter, because you got one in. Whereas if you have the last winner, you'd be miserable for 3 days. In fact, the day you run on Imperial Commander, you'd had a crap time, haven't you? Yeah. And then you rode Pigeon after. It's how it goes. But as a punter, psychologically, to be chasing straight after the first race, which is what all punters do, whether you like it or not, like, unless you're a really sophisticated, controlled person, which most punters aren't.
But just one last thing on him, Matt, because obviously we need to move on. But I just when you go around doing these previews, there was never one person said he was an Irish banker, and I think them Irish bankers, you listen to them and they are right a lot more than they're wrong. So he wasn't one of them. So anyway, we'll see.
We should just say that Henry de Bromhead's very keen on work at each way, and Patrick Mullins has got the ride on Salvatore Mundi. His price has drifted like a barge since that news. I don't quite know why, because Patrick is clearly very, very capable, but no one seems to like him. He's got a hood like Kopek and a tongue strap on.
I imagine Kopek or the one Patrick's riding, one of them will be in front and one of them will be, if Salvo is be out the back, I'd say. I could see...
Or the arse of Kopek.
No, they won't be doing that.
Okay.
I could see Kopek making all.
Okay, let's move on to the My Pension Expert Arkle Challenge Trophy. Almost time for you, isn't it? The old pension. You go on to the My Pension Expert, they could do us a good Unbridled deal. Yeah, we could do that on Unbridled, could we? My pension deals. Anyway, Majborough, Loader Sud, Django Bay, Only by Night, and Touch Me Not. I'm going to give myself a plug here, but I've got a lovely feature in the paper today, The Sun, with Bridget Andrews, who not only is Harry Skelton's other half, but also is the work rider for Loader Sud. And she is very confident that we haven't seen the best of this horse. What do you make of the Arkle, Pat?
Yeah, obviously not many runners, Matt. You like Django Bay, I like Loader Sud. Everyone, I'm sure, likes Majborough. It's 1-2 favourite, but I do think, I speak to Bridget when I ride out at Dan's, and he's an incredible workhorse. I just think on this ground, Matt, we might see him at his very best, and I give him a chance.
Yeah, I've been going on about Django Bay for a long time, but while there were 3 places, I thought he was a great each-way bet. So now you've got 5 runners and you've got an each-way bet of the first 3. You'll be gutted if you don't make a profit on Django Bay. But of course, when it comes to the race, I can't tip him up to win because that's not what my theory was with him. I don't have a massive opinion on this. Small field, I think, is going to very much help Majborough.
Can I ask you a question for a man that wouldn't know? So if you have a bet each way before the declarations, do you get paid first 3 even though there's 5 runners?
So you get the each way betting terms, yeah. So of the entry number. Now, with the Arkle, it's been a little bit different from the point of view the bookies, or at least some bookmakers, second guess that there wouldn't be a big field in the last week or so, and quite a few bookmakers have only gone 2 places recently. But in general terms, for instance, let's give you an example. If you bet on next year's Derby now, each way, you get 3 places. Now, if there are 4 runners in the Derby next year, you still are on at 3 places. Yeah. So that's how it works, Pat.
Okay, thanks.
And obviously, in a handicap, like if you bet on the Grand National now, you get 4 places. But you have to remember on the day, you're probably going to get 8 places with some bookmakers. So it varies. Django Bay, he's a Grade 1 winning hurdler. I thought he was really good at Cheltenham against Springwell Bay and Caldwell Potter. He got, according to Nicolai, stuck in the mud between the second last and the last at Sandown. He still ran really well against handstands. Is he a superstar like Sergino? No, but I don't think he's a bad... That's my theory with him, and I couldn't have him out the first 3. Majborough, I think the Triumph Hurdle form is relatively pants. He's brushed fences without ever looking like falling. He might just outclass them. But again, he's nearly 1-2. Like, it's not worth someone like me betting a horse at 1-2. Even if I think it's a certainty, it's not worth it.
Tactics will be interesting, Matt. 5 runners, I know, but you're not going to just let Majborough have an easy time. If you're Nico de Bonville or Harry Skelton, you're going to keep him honest, and sometimes, Matt, you're going to force him into a mistake, and yeah, he possibly needs to make a mistake to be beaten, but it's Cheltenham, and it's going to be very decent ground, and there'll be no room for error.
240 is the Ultima Handicap Chase, staying Handicap Chase. We're expecting a field of 24 for this at the very least, so each way betting 1, 2, 3, 4 at the very least. Many firms, of course, will go more places in a race like this, as we were just mentioning a little earlier when we were talking about the Derby of next year and races like that. Have you got a horse or 2 that you're looking forward to in the Ultima, Pat?
No, I think this is a race that will go to England. I like Joe Tizard's horse, and a horse I like a lot is Nigel Twiston Davis, Broadway Boy. They're 2 horses I think will come to the fore in this race. You and
I were both at a charity do the other night. Willie Twiston Davis stood up. The love, I mean, he did buy and source Broadway Boy, but the love he has for Broadway, he genuinely thinks this horse will take all the beating, doesn't he?
And do you think that ground will be all right for him? Decent ground?
I don't think it's going to be a massive...
It would have been decent enough in Newbury when he was just beating the Hennessy, or the Coral Gold Cup, whatever it is. But yeah, he's I think them 2 massive chances in an open race. Aren't you like?
Well, I've tipped up 2 in this. Henry's Friend, who ran well in the same aforementioned Hennessy, and then won at Newbury. He ran terrible at this meeting last year, but Ben Pauling says there was a reason for that. Just forget about it. It's not the fact he doesn't like the track. I think he stays. He's in from a stable that's been in great form the last couple of weeks. Ben Jones running out of his skin. And I've also, at a massive price, put up Happy Go Lucky, who's an 11-year-old. But funny enough, older horses in handicaps at Cheltenham don't have a bad record. He's got no chance on any recent form. He's only had 1 run since being off the track a year. He was trained by Kim Bailey, but not so long ago he ran 9th in this race for Kim off a mark of 152. He's now rated 140. If he retains any of that old ability, he's absolutely chucked in. No one's going to back him, really.
Who has him?
Mel Rowley has him now. He's a perfectly capable trainer. Look.
But you've got to be finding value, and then maybe that's something like that could run into.
It's the same story, Paddy. If you never put up a 33-1 shot, you're never going to get lucky with one. And so you've got to go for things. Okay, Johnny Burke on top. I'm not too fussed about him. Although, as we say that, just have a look at that picture. This was Johnny Burke, Willie Twiston-Davis, and Charlie Deutsch in the weighing room at a meeting the other day. I hope these jockeys are going to take the Cheltenham Festival a little bit more seriously than that, lads. Come on, this is a serious business. Right, we're getting through nearly. We've got 3 to go. I'll tell you who I wanted to call. I thought I would try. I can't guarantee he'll pick up because he's an absolute law unto himself. He's one of the most dangerous men in Ireland, actually. I thought I'd give Tony Mullins a call and see what he's up to. But he probably is doing something he shouldn't. You never quite know with Tony. He could be out on the gallops. Oh.
Hello.
Is that Tony?
Who else would it be? I have no secretary.
I thought you turned into Michael Hurrigan. You're Tone. You're live on the Unbridled podcast with me and Paddy Brennan.
All right.
You said just as well you didn't pick up as you usually do. Is what the do you want? How are you, son?
Good.
So usually we have quite a laugh on this podcast, and we're not doing badly this time, Tony. But we haven't got any sort of jokes and stuff like that. And then I thought, I tell you what, Pad, let's ring Tony and talk about Dawn Run, and then we can have a right laugh.
Yeah, at his expense. Yeah.
I wouldn't do that, actually, and I'm not going to, because I know underneath it all, it still absolutely kills you. But how are you anyway?
Very good. Very good. Looking forward to the week.
Now, your brother has a chance of winning 1 or 2 races this week. So really, I just want, look, Tone, all we want is the lowdown. I'm presuming like Willie rings you every night and says, Tone, have a few quid on this, and this. What's the Mullins banker?
And they're the ones I strike out straight away. I don't think he's ever given me a winner in his life.
Hold on, is he a wrong 'un? As a tipping brother, is he a wrong 'un?
He'd put you in the poorhouse.
Well, what about in your belief? What? Give us just a couple of horses that you're excited to see from the stable.
Well, I suppose the obvious one to me is Majborough. Like, in my opinion, from what I've seen, you're only betting on him jumping around.
Oh,
he's absolute. You know, he's well, in my opinion, 14 pounds superior to the opposition. So, if you fancy short price, punting, he's the horse that will not get beat. There'll no horse beat him anyway. If a fence catches him out, it's highly unlikely. I thought he was good and clever in Leopardstown. He made a few errors more than really mistakes that, I thought there was never any fear of him falling, and there's no horse, in my opinion, near him in ability in the race. So he'd be the absolute boring banker, a 2-1 on or 7-4 on. And my dicey one is Kopek Des Bordes.
Yeah.
I think he could boil over. Like, he looked fantastic in the Dublin Racing Festival, but I don't know, was he as good? At Christmas, I know Patrick rode him and sort of minded him and got him jumping slowly and that, but they tell me he can boil over. So
he needs the hands of Tony Mullins on him, doesn't he, rather than Paul Townend?
Exactly, yeah. That's it. And they tell me, I'm being told that there are several of Willie's other ones that are right up there, not far behind him.
Oh, God.
Asking about brighter days ahead.
Like, I was asking Danny the other night, and he said, like, there's 3 or 4 of them, and if he does anything wrong, and they'll be on top of him like a shot.
I'm presuming we're like talking about Salvatore Mundi here, a little bit.
Yeah, he actually is quite hot as well, no, there's two horses there beginning with K. There's a short named horse very short name beginning with K. I think Sean O'Keefe reckon, does he?
Yeah, hold on. I'm going to go into it now. So there's Iromtsi, ridden by Mark Walsh. There's Carbo, ridden by Sean O'Keefe. And there's Carnique, ridden by a certain fabulously handsome offspring of a trainer called Tony Mullins.
Yeah, it just came naturally down through the line.
Yeah, on the dam side.
But, the one Sean O'Keefe is riding is, I'm told, a slow burner, what would you call it, quieter type, but they're all saying he's not too bad.
Okay, that is interesting, because I have to say there were people on social media saying, like, why have they put Patrick Mullins on Salvatore Mundi? But it might be that's not the second best to Kopek Des Bordes. There might be one of the other ones.
Yeah, well, now that's what I'm hearing from the lads, that he's a much better horse than he's been rated. So.
Do you come over at all, Tone?
Yeah, I'm going over today.
Are you?
And I won't stay for the full week now. I don't have the stamina of Matt Chapman and Paddy Brennan.
Well,
I'm just getting into, I've been at this a long time now, Matt.
I would ask you to go through all the handicaps, but I know that you just say to me, well, they've all been beating each other. Yeah.
Every day.
So we'll leave you in peace, Tony, and I look forward to seeing you this week.
What do you think? There's a little question for you now, and Paddy there. What do you think of the 5-runner rule? 5 runs over hurdles, to qualify for a handicap.
Yeah.
Do you think it has helped, or it has done harm to the Cheltenham Festival? There is no doubt. You can say what you like now. All the changes have affected. I don't know. They've affected the best horses turning up at Cheltenham.
Yeah, Tone.
That's my opinion.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And until you find yourself in the situation with a horse that you have to have ran a certain amount of times, you can't explain it. And I have, because the horse I'm involved with in my racing syndicate, I would like him to run an entry in a conditional jockey's race. He's ran 3 times. He needs to run again. So you're putting yourself in a position. Do I run him again? And do we risk the horse a little bit? Because if you have to run a horse for the sake of it, I don't think you're putting the horse first. And that is the way I would answer that question.
Yeah. Well, I remember it's just coming to me now that about 5, 6, 7 years ago, they brought in the rule on the flat for the Cesarewitch that you had to run over a certain distance to be qualified, and within a year of the race or something. So Willie's 2 weren't qualified, the 2 that he was aiming for it. So he had to run them in Bellewstown. They ran around the back and ran on to finish 6th and 7th, I think. And they were both 1st and 2nd in the Cesarewitch. Now, he did not want to run them in Bellewstown that day, but he had to qualify. So, it was really, horses were running that had no chance because they weren't ready, obviously, 2 or 3 months before the race. So it's forcing lads to run when they're not ready to do things. So I just think, personally myself, I think the Mayor's Hurl should be either moved out of Cheltenham or certainly moved to the 4th day.
Yeah.
Well away from the champion hurl.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. It has to be moved to the last day, in my opinion, to stop the Golden Ace Lossiemouth thing. 2 races within 30 minutes of each other, and they can just stay dicing it up until Sunday morning.
Yeah, 100%.
And obviously, Tony, you do have a little interest here because, pretty much certainly Daddy would have ridden Lossiemouth in the champion hurdle. Now he misses out. But that apart, this is nothing new. Honestly, we've been bleating about this for years. I had the argument with Maloney, the honeysuckle man, when honeysuckle was around, that, there are just too many options and not enough good horses. And the point of Cheltenham and the reason that it's become special for people...
Meeting.
Exactly. It's best of the best. And when it isn't best of the best, there's no point to it.
Yeah, exactly. That now for me, and I never want to take from Cheltenham because it's been what we've grown up to live for every year. But at the moment, I'm enjoying the Dublin Racing Festival much more. Quick fire, top class race, and no avoiding each other. That's, and it's a pity to be saying that.
Well, the only problem is the only person who's having to avoid themselves at the Dublin Racing Festival is Mr. Willie Mullins. But
yeah. But that's a bit like, it's amazing how the English won't travel, and it's a bit of a pity. Like the couple that have travelled all won.
Yeah.
Was it Sophie Leach last year?
And yeah. We haven't got a bad record.
A small trainer did it at the Punchestown Festival. I think 2 horses came over last year and they both won.
Yeah, Tom Lacey.
They're not as inferior as everyone is suggesting, as the results would suggest, if they'd go out and have a go.
That's it. If you're not in, you can't win.
You certainly won't win if you're not in.
Yeah. Tony, we've got much more out of you than I bargained for. You're much better on a podcast than when I ring you normally.
I'm in for my cup of tea this morning. I'm just having it here now, so that's how I'm relaxed.
Yeah, I just wish I was talking about Kilcruit about to win the Gold Cup or something.
Yeah, I think he ended up with a bit of a wind problem, but he was a very good horse. And you got it out of me before he ever ran.
I did, actually, yeah. I did, yeah. Didn't do me much good, but I did get it out of you. It's a real pleasure, Tone. We'll look forward to seeing you over the next few days, and have a safe journey over. Always a legend.
Well done.
Thanks, Tony. Thanks you.
Tony.
Cheers. Bye.
And that, Pad, is the beauty of this show. That you ring someone up, and I just thought he'll give us a couple of Mullins that, and he did, to be fair. He gave us 2 shorties. It was interesting what he said about Majborough. We'll come back to that in a moment. But then with someone like Tony Mullins, who still has all these opinions, and he said some really interesting things. This mare's hurdle, Cheltenham have just so messed this up. And I know they've made some changes that have worked out, credit where it's due. But the mare's hurdle is
Yeah, and now we're closer to Cheltenham. I actually see it, Matt. When you were ranting and raving about it when we first started this show, I was, where's this heading? But as it's got closer, I am, for once, agreeing with you. And like Tony said, moving the race to start with, or removing the race. And then to his point about moving the race, when you're able to do declarations for a champion hurl or a mare's hurl on the same morning, it does. Yeah, something needs to be changed there, I would say.
What was lovely about that is I didn't ask him about that. He offered that to us, and that's so cool about.
But Matt,
the show.
you can hear it in Tony's voice. You got to understand, in Ireland, however big it is in England, Ireland is absolutely buzzing this morning. All these people coming over to Cheltenham, getting ready to go to the airport. It's their week's holiday, and great feeling that. Like kid going to a sweet shop, and they'll absolutely love it.
Love sweets. 440 at Cheltenham is the juvenile handicap hurdle. Stencil's been well talked about for Noel George. Total look in there, beyond your dreams. Got a fancy in this.
I don't really, Matt. Very open race. I think the Fred Winter, when you go back to 2006, and I was lucky enough to win it on a 40-1 shot. Everyone's got Shamayun. I don't have a massive opinion in this race. Fergal O'Brien's got a runner. Hopefully runs well, but no, not for me.
I quite like Hot Fuss each way. First time blinkers. By far the best of these on the flat. Has already run and won a hurdle race. Wasn't disgraced in graded company last time. And it would just be such a good story for Tom Dascombe, who hasn't had it easy recently. Good jumps jockey back in the day.
David Bass rides that one, doesn't he?
David Bass. Can you imagine Dascombe and Bass together?
Brilliant.
You'd have ridden against. Would you have ridden against Dascombe?
No, I don't think I did. No.
It's quite old.
I'm like, come on.
Okay, and then we get to the end of the card, which is the National Hunt Chase. I'm just hoping that Patrick Mullins sits out the back on Transmission and pounces late. What about you?
Yeah, Transmission, a horse I like. Patrick's obviously chosen to ride that one when he could have probably ridden in a few in that race. So I'll go with that one as well.
Well, that is just about it from the first Cheltenham Festival Unbridled. Pad, looking forward to it?
Yeah, I cannot wait, Matt. It's lovely speaking about all these races, and James Bowen, Tony Mullins, it's brilliant.
I cannot wait.
You're buzzing, I can tell.
Oh, God, I cannot wait for Constitution Hill to hack up. I'm going to, again, give myself a plug here, but it's my show. I'm allowed to do that. I've got 3 features going in the paper on Tuesday. One with you. This is the Sun. One with you. One, as I've already said, on Bridget Andrews. But the other is with Nikolai Chastel de Boinville. And I just wanted to end today's show with the quote that he gave me about Constitution Hill, which of course goes in the Champion Hurdle. This is what he said. He's exciting to ride, and I have never jumped a hurdle better than I have done on Constitution Hill. He's the best hurdler I have ever been on. And if he comes up with the form he was in when taking the Supreme or when he won the Champion in 2023, it would take a true champion to beat him. The problem is, Nikolai, you are the true champion. Done.
Did that hit your head?
Yes, it did it.